Welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association, broadcasting from our home base at Charleston Radio Group. Thanks to CRG, we're able to talk to the movers and shakers of Charleston, from economy to art, from hospitality to tech, and everything in between. These leaders have made a home here in the Lowcountry. They live here, they work here, they make change here. Why? Let's talk about it. Here are your co-hosts, Mike Compton and Stephanie Barrow.
Hello and welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association, where we have conversations about marketing with the who's who of Charleston. That would be you, Genna?
Yes.
You're one of those.
Yes.
We are recording here at the Charleston Radio Group, while Kaz Films is behind the camera, both supporters of Charleston American Marketing Association. Thank you, guys. Also, a little shout out to Jerry Feelsgood for the beats that you have in the open there. Love the music. My name is Mike Compton. I'm president of Roomba Advertising, GoRoomba.com, and your CAMA Director of Membership Experience. It's a new one. Director of Membership Experience. Sounds
Upgraded
cool, doesn't
title.
it? Huh?
Upgraded.
I think so.
I think so too. Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Yeah.
I'm Stephanie Barrow.
Stephanie.
I own a digital marketing agency here in Charleston.
She's our
Stephanie Barrow
co-host.
Consulting. I am the co-host, and I am your CAMA immediate past president.
Yes. And speaking of really cool titles, we have Genna Shelnutt here. Genna is the executive creative director of the Buffalo Groupe. Thanks for being on the show, Genna.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Squeezing in some time for us. You have a presentation
Making it
right
work.
after this.
I do.
She does. She's a busy lady.
We got a
Wish me
hustler.
luck.
We got a hustler here. A little bit about Genna. Genna Shelnutt. This is kind of the awkward time where we talk about you in
Yes.
front of you, right? Stephanie loves this part. Genna Shelnutt.
Glad he's doing this
Genna
part.
with a G. Genna with a G. Graduated from the honors program in the University of Georgia with a dual degree in business management and advertising. She first joined BGRM, then Rawle Murdy, as a summer intern, eventually landing herself a full-time position in the agency and working her way up from account service to public relations to SEO specialist to copywriter. After a brief stint working in-house at a Charleston-based software company called Blackbaud.
Yes.
Genna returned to BGRM to continue her advertising career. She now oversees more than 20 creatives. Whoa, we got to talk about that. Across Buffalo Groupe as the executive creative director, in addition to serving as managing director of the Charleston Group. Like I said, thank you for fitting in this time with us. I'm going to add something to the show. Stephanie, I haven't talked to you about this yet, but we can do
I'm concerned.
Executive director. I'm going to add their LinkedIn. What do they have on LinkedIn as their thing? So this is kind of fun here. On LinkedIn, she is passionate. Her passion is to, everybody's passionate on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm a passionate person too on LinkedIn. It's really weird. Everybody's passions. Her passion is to write copy that has as much stopping power as it does strategy.
You know who'd be proud of
I
that?
love that.
Thomas Heath. Thomas Heath would be very proud of that.
Oh, you know what? He's going to be a good LinkedIn conversation.
Yes, he is.
But I'm not talking about Thomas. We're talking about Genna with a G. Her specialties are writing, strategy, brand development, mastering tone and voice, big ideas, little ideas, online content development, creative expression, and puns.
Love a good pun.
Give me your favorite pun.
Oh, no.
Yep.
He's putting you on the spot.
I love it. That's my favorite part.
Oh, she's... Let's not do this to her.
Let's go ahead and figure out what really is a pun. Tell me what a pun is.
A pun is a play on words.
Okay.
Yes. Which
So-
is very hard to do
On the spot.
on the spot.
So
Us
you know
creatives
what?
need a little more time to get it together.
At the end of this 45 minutes, we're going to have a pun. We're going to come up with a pun.
No pressure at all, friends.
Okay.
No pressure at all.
This is funny. I like it. All right, good already. Stephanie, what you've got questions?
I have lots of
Genna?
questions for
Fire away.
Genna. So you're originally from the Atlanta area, correct?
Yeah, Marietta, Georgia, so just northwest of Atlanta.
Awesome. And we were talking earlier about all the cool things that you're interested in, the music and whatnot. Now, what brought you to Mount Pleasant or Charleston? We're currently in the Mount Pleasant studio. So what brought you to Charleston and Johns Island area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had graduated from school in 2008 and moved back home because I was like, what happens now? What
sure.
do we do?
Yeah.
I had worked to pay the bills during college, so I didn't have a chance to do any internships or get any sort of experience, and started applying for some jobs and was getting crickets, and eventually reached out to a college professor who I liked and connected with and was like, where should I go? Where should I start? I think I just need an internship. And she connected me with an agency in Charleston that she had another former student at,
Right.
Who happened to run the internship program. So I came for an unpaid internship, I would add. We pay our interns now, but back then we did not. And worked 20 hours in the morning at an unpaid internship and 40 hours at night at Starbucks and slept on a friend's couch. And it was
So you were basically always a hustler.
it was a lot.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And the first job was Rawle Murdy, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was that like? And what, circa 08? Is that what you said? 09?
Yeah, 08. So not the best time to be entering the advertising industry.
Any industry would be exact.
right.
But
It was tough. We were really big at the time. I think we had over 70 people between 2 different offices downtown, and they actually didn't have a desk space for me. So I was in a Harry Potter desk underneath the stairs.
as you should be, as
lot
the
of-
intern should be, not
In the dark corner.
Folks
Right,
would not
room
know if
closet.
I was there or not
Oh,
unless they
wow.
went underneath
Speak
the
when you're
stairs.
spoken to. Go grab the coffee,
One
please.
of my favorite things I worked on at the time is we had Orient Express Hotels was one of our clients, and they had worked with the Charleston place, but they also worked with a property in New Orleans called Windsor Court Hotels. And I wrote e-newsletters for Windsor Court Hotels, but the premise of them was an insider's guide to New Orleans. This is 22-year-old me, unpaid intern, never been to New Orleans. Right.
Cool.
So,
Did you have a grenade like right off the bat? Did you just land and
It
go
was
right
basically
to?
beignets, jazz. Here's the scene.
Google was my best friend. I mean, so much is just like researching and figuring out what you can learn online and then, yeah, hoping it's right.
I think that's an interesting point as a marketer, because I don't know about you, but I work with clients all the time, and I'm like, I know absolutely nothing about this, but I have to
Yeah.
become an expert about this
Yes.
immediately. And it's great that you have that skill set where you can pick
Wait.
something up on the dime and
Absolutely.
just roll with it.
You were just saying you just did that. Still. So
Yeah,
this is
oh,
how
yeah.
many years later?
15 almost?
15 years later.
Yeah.
How many different promotions later, for goodness sakes? And you're still doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as a writer or as any, brand strategist, you've got to dig in on a lot of subjects and just become an expert.
Even just a day trip to Naples.
Yes, even a day trip to Naples.
That's awesome. Let's talk about agency life in Charleston. We're the Charleston American Marketing Association. We're here to
Favorite topics.
we're here to
Just
promote
life in
we're
Charleston.
here to promote Charleston, right?
Yeah,
and we're here to
I
build
love it.
community, advertising, marketers, community creatives.
And I will point out that
More
Rawle Murdy
like-minded.
has won a lot of Spark Awards over the year.
Oh my
I
gosh.
look at the list of people who've won, and I'm like, okay, they've won again, and they won again, and they won again. I'm like, I hope one of them shows up to claim their 10 awards from
Oh,
the show. Because
yes.
you guys it's been a very impressive group. I know that you had a branding change and that kind of thing. So what brought about the change in the name and that kind of thing?
Sure, yeah. So it'll be 4 years at the end of May that we were bought by a larger parent company called Buffalo Groupe and became part of Buffalo Groupe. And initially, the idea with Buffalo Groupe was to pick agencies with clientele, not the same clients, but kind of adjacent clients, so that we would have similar audience motivators, people with similar interests and passions, but not necessarily competing against one another.
Okay.
So that we could lean on each other's different expertise when needed, but also just operate independently. COVID changed everything, and of course, one of the things that changed was how we needed to work and how we needed to operate. So we all went fully remote back in 2020, like everyone did, and different agencies were hurt differently depending on what kind of clients they had in their specialties. And so it made a lot of sense at that time to no longer operate as independent agencies, but to work collectively across the group and really share resources. And
I
so
love
that's
that.
when we started doing that, and it's been an evolution ever since. It's never stopped changing.
Right.
So it's been a process, and it's still in process. But a part of that was we also rebranded Rawle Murdy to BGRM. So Buffalo Groupe Rawle Murdy.
How old when did Rawle Murdy start?
We are coming up on, I think, my co-managing director, John Kautz, and I said 48 years.
Whoa.
Yes, they're very established. here in
75.
Charleston.
So if someone can do math better than me, I think this is
Wow.
our 48
That's
years.
boomer status almost.
Yeah,
No,
boomer,
right?
there you
Right.
go.
Anyhow, that's amazing. So many years and so much time. 14 years of copywriting. So what have you learned in 14 years of copywriting?
Copywriting is so interesting to me. So I would love to hear your take on your copywriting experience.
Teach us, Yoda.
I know a lot of rules of grammar. It's true.
She does
believe
not
it.
need Grammarly on her desktop,
I
people.
can call you on a grammar thing. But also when I was at Blackbaud, which had a very strict style guide, and they followed Chicago Manual of Style.
What now?
I was
I'm
going to
sorry.
ask you
I'm
that.
sorry.
I was going to ask you
I
the
don't know.
style.
It wasn't the
First
one
of all,
I
what
had
is
learned in
Blackbaud?
school.
What is Blackbaud? Real
They're
quick for the
a
audience.
technology and software company that makes software and services geared at nonprofits.
Yes.
More than welcome to sponsor us, by
And
the way.
based here in
Blackbaud.
Charleston.
Go
Love
get
shout
them,
outs.
yeah. They had a very strict adherence to the Chicago Manual of Style.
What is the Chicago Manual of Style? Come on, help me.
There's different writing styles, and different agencies adopt, or different brands adopt the different writing styles. Trio, I'm trying to think what it was when I worked at Trio. I should know this because Jessica Mundy would be upset with me right now that I forgot. But we adopted one style. What are some of the other styles?
Oh God,
there's a lot of them. There's a lot of
APA.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
APA. Yes,
Okay.
we had the manual on our desk, and so which was great, and I still have it. But yes, it's different. It's different for everybody, though.
Right. But it tells you, like, do you use the Oxford comma? That's like the extra
Oxford
comma
is a huge debate
conjunction
in copywriting.
Oh, you know what I do? I put 2 spaces after my period.
No.
Yeah, he
Every
got
time?
in trouble.
Do you do it consistently?
Every time.
Okay, if you do it consistently,
I have
I'll get
to. I
behind
don't
it.
know how not
Well, one
to.
of the style guides agrees with that.
I don't know how not
but
to.
I couldn't type
can't.
There's lots of style guides, but that's interesting.
But I became known as the copywriter who broke the style guide a lot
Ooh.
because I try not to take things too seriously. I know the rules, and if it's affecting how a reader might perceive the words you're putting out there,
Right.
it'll bother me. But otherwise, I try to let
So
things
do you
be a little
write
more chill.
cool.
like how you talk? How do you write typically for a brand? Or do you write similar to their style?
Yeah, always try to adapt to the brand's voice,
Right.
obviously. But I think I do have a much more casual style, and I try to push brands to be a little bit more casual and fun and
I
lighten
love
up.
that.
Isn't
I think
that like
being
an authentic-
authentically
right.
yourself these
Jinx.
days, and storytelling, and especially since COVID, I feel like everyone's like kind of adopting that more of a, being more transparent nature in their marketing, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
You probably like helped pioneer that from your agency from the get-go. That's amazing.
That's like back to my Piggly Wiggly social media management days. That's a whole other story.
Oh my gosh, Piggly Wiggly! I
We could
can't
talk
even
all
imagine.
day.
How do you make Piggly Wiggly cool? I want to hear about this.
Oh my gosh, Piggly Wiggly's so cool.
I know, but I would
Right.
like to hear some of your ideas that you did.
I mean, big on the pig, like owning local,
Yes.
like local food in
Yes.
South Carolina.
Yes.
Leaning into the local farms and places we were sourcing
I love that.
ingredients here,
Yeah.
and really highlighting that in a way that other grocery stores and chains weren't, because
See,
they couldn't say they
I
had
don't know
those
if I
same
could have
roots.
come up with all of that. That's very impressive.
Did you hear the passion come out of
Yes,
her
I
when
love
she
the
started talking
passion.
about it? Don't fuck with Piggly Wiggly. for crying out loud.
Don't.
Don't. I love it. Oh, you know what I don't get right now, and I want to get your take on this. Putting you on the spot again. Who does this currently? And Allison might know about this because it's on the radio all the time. This grocery store is in love with food, but really, in food with love.
Is this Lowe's?
It's
food?
Teeter's new thing. Listen to Teeter's new slogan. It bothers the crap out of me, and I'm butchering it right now. I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes. But it's like, we're in love with food, but we're really in food with love. What does that mean? That was it. What was it? What does that even?
Hey, it resonated with you because you're kind of remembering
Oh
it.
dear.
It's starting a conversation, so maybe that was the whole point.
Maybe that was the whole point. We're talking with somebody who made Piggly Wiggly cool.
Yeah,
So
I know.
That's something to talk about.
Certainly
Yeah.
not
Your neighborhood market, along with the donation, in food with love. Yeah, there it is. Their new slogan, in food with love. Thanks, Allison. God, that was quick,
Well,
buddy.
I want to talk a little bit because I know friends who've left agencies I've worked at and moved on to Rawle Murdy, and I know that they had like systems in place and that kind of thing, and you've come in and stepped in with a fresh voice as a women leader. I would love to learn a little bit more about like your leadership style and like the transition and the changes that you've made over since taking your new position.
Sure, yeah. I mean, some of it's happened really naturally, but I'm like loving to see this push even from younger generations away from this grind culture.
Yes, the
mentality.
work-life balance.
Yeah. It's been really nice to see. So it's kind of forced a lot of businesses' hands, because things that used to be, here's a benefit or here's a perk, like working from home, are now kind of table stakes. And people are pushing even further in those directions in terms of aggressive PTO offerings, and some really cool stuff is happening. But yeah, when I was first started at agency, in the intern days, I mean, it was an 8:30 to 5:30 schedule with a 1-hour lunch break that nobody took.
Right, because you're too busy.
Yeah.
You just don't eat.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, or you microwave something quick, ate it at your desk, you were working the
That
whole
was
time.
me until I worked for
Yeah.
myself. It's hard.
And even at 5:30, anyone that left at 5:30, everyone was giving them side eye. Like 5:30 was still considered like really early.
Right.
Unless it's
It was like 6, yeah, unless it's Friday.
Right.
6 maybe was an okay time to leave, and you're kind of like, who's left already here,
Right.
you know? And there was no working from home. We couldn't even wear jeans. I remember when they implemented jeans on Fridays
As an agency?
policy. Yeah.
What are you wearing? What is this?
It was business
60s?
dress. Yeah, it was wild.
Very cool.
So actually, part of the reason I went to Blackbaud was because I was looking for a little bit more
You wanted
flexibility.
jeans? You wanted
I
to wear
wanted
more jeans?
jeans.
I
I
see you
think
got your jean
Blackbaud does
jacket
have
on.
a good
So,
culture. They
listeners.
put a lot around
Yeah.
their employees, their culture, their family. I know they have a lot of events for their employees at Blackbaud.
Yeah. And yeah, more flexibility, working from home, those
Mm-hmm.
types of perks at that time, which were not something the agency was offering. So when there was an opportunity to come back, I was a little hesitant because I was like, I don't want to give up these things that I've gained working at Blackbaud. And they had actually made a lot of changes and come a long way in that period of time. So there was a lot more flexibility in terms of working from home. There was definitely the dress code had been thrown out entirely. So it was like, whatever you feel like wearing will be just fine.
Somebody caught wind that you quit because you couldn't wear jeans. So they're like,
I was clear on my exit interview. I wanted them to know what was,
you did it. Another
Hey, I
one.
love that.
Another thing that you pioneered here in Charleston.
But I do love the culture that, I mean, we're still navigating the switch
You
to
have
fully
to.
hybrid
Okay.
and figuring out what that looks like and how
Sure.
do you build culture when you've got fully remote people versus people who are in office. And I wouldn't say we're doing everything right, but I appreciate that we're always willing to figure out how we can be doing it better
Well,
and staying really competitive.
I think that's what you have to do, though, as a large agency, as any agency, is you have
Right.
to kind of keep your pulse on what the culture is going to be next.
Right.
What
Absolutely.
we're going to need next, as an owner,
It's that
as a
challenge
leader.
of being collaborative, but also caring about your employee and being
Yeah.
flexible. Because if not, you're going to lose that star employee. Because
Right.
the whole world has changed since COVID, which I think for the better in a lot of ways.
Right.
But that's awesome.
What was it? Getting rid of the hustle culture? Is that
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
the hustle
getting rid of
culture?
the hustle.
Canceling the hustle
Yeah.
culture and the
Yeah.
grind. Even though you still have to work your ass off to get to somewhere and do some things, you can't just not work. But
No.
working hard, working smarter I'm into that too.
Right. And there's definitely ways that. So do you work together? A lot of you work remotely and then you come together as a team. Now, collaboratively, how do you work together?
Wait, let's start at the top. How many people? You said 20?
There's 20 on the creative pillar, which works across the group and services all of the agencies.
Okay.
I see.
But Buffalo Group as a whole has about 120 people.
120 people. Okay. So
And all
go ahead
spread
with your
out.
question there. So
And
now
you're
we
in
know the
different
size
cities
of this
all over the
beast.
nation, right? Yeah. Like, was it New York? What is it?
Yeah, there's different hubs of offices. So Portland is our research group. So
Okay.
there's several
Cool.
people that are local to that area. DC is where our headquarters was. So there's
Love
a good
it.
hub of people there.
Okay.
New York as well. Charlotte is one of our agencies is based out of Charlotte. So yeah, kind of all
That's
around.
amazing. Now, would you say that your agency specializes in certain industries?
Only cool stuff.
Ours
I
is in
saw.
BGRM.
Yeah.
Yeah, travel and tourism and real estate, especially like kind of private communities or second homes, vacation homes,
Right.
those types of places.
Right.
Those are two of our specialty areas.
That's amazing.
And you're here in Charleston, so those are pillars that work really well, I'm
Right.
sure.
Right, exactly.
Especially, real estate.
You feel justified in calling yourself an expert when you're living in the place everyone wants to travel
You're in the place
to.
doing
The
the
number
thing.
one,
Yeah.
his hospitality center of the South is
Right.
Charleston. And I swear restaurants are constantly popping up. And I'm always seeing your name tied to like the press, the PR, and the different efforts for marketing. So kudos to your team. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Love to hear that.
Yeah, I love it. So what is, now that you have taken over this and you've had these new reins, like what is your favorite type of project to work on? Now, when you had your laundry list of things that you work on, SEO, copywriting, social media, like what is your bread and butter? Copywriting?
Brand strategy now at this point.
Okay.
We've got a really strong team of copywriters who work on sort of more of the day-to-day execution. Occasionally I get back into it when teams are fully loaded, but a lot of the times I'm not in that day-to-day writing. But it's a lot of fun when I get back in there. I can really flex those pun muscles.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
She
I
mentioned
knew
it again.
I knew
It's
it.
on top of mind.
I knew it. It's going to happen.
I love it.
But brand strategy, so messaging strategy specifically. So
Right.
when we're bringing on a new client that wants to either define its brand because it's new, like doesn't exist in the world yet, or redefine what they are, or clarify who they are because the way they're talking about themselves
Absolutely.
isn't really being done super well. I love running and leading those types of projects.
I bet. Now, do you ever do like crisis management or anything like that for like a failing business, especially like around when hospitality here in Charleston, I mean, it was basically shut down. How did you guys navigate all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we do as BGRM. I would say I don't do it as much personally in my role, but we have a PR team that is really adept at crisis communication. And yeah, there was some of that related to, hotels we're working with that are having to change policies or having to cancel reservations because they have to
Right.
go down to such capacity limits set by the government, all of those types of things.
Yeah.
So other than drafting information or editing copy to make sure it has the right tone and voice for a brand, really the crisis the crisis team.
So you're basically pivoting on a dime.
Yeah.
It's wild, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's one of my favorite things about marketing is just constantly like ebb and flow and just always keeps you on your toes. It's awesome.
Yeah, you have to. So I took this from your website here. It says data before art.
Yeah.
I love it. But as a creative.
Yeah. I don't love creative ideas just for the sake of having ideas. I think anyone can come up with big, crazy, wild ideas. I don't think that's what the magic is. I think the magic is like doing something that's backed in data, backed in really strategic insight, that you've got some nugget that you've gleaned, whether it's from research or from partnering with your client, from studies, from looking at what competitors are doing, whatever, and coming up with a really big idea that makes sense and is going to work and really move the needle based on that information. So I feel really, really passionately about not just working in a creative big idea silo, which I think is sort of the way
it's easier to tell your clients, like, you know, your ROI is right here in front of you. The map supports your campaign.
Right,
which is huge when it's like a selling point and trying something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And then you also talk about, you know, today's preferred medium. I mean, it's your cell phone, it's your laptop, is your iPad.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about communicating to those people and how and where do you, like, that starts in the research part, doesn't it? In the data part.
For sure. I mean, we're very lucky. Longitudes Group is our research arm.
I was going to ask how big that is. Yeah.
Based out of Portland. But then we also have sports marketing surveys, which is a little more specialized, in Action Watch, again, even further specialized. But all just data and research, brilliant minds and powerhouses that we have access to tap into, to pull into projects. So it's been hugely helpful, I think, in making the work better and better and better.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I love how you have these different silos across the country that you can tap into.
Right.
Me too.
Smart.
Now I know you've been doing this business for a long time, so I'm like pretty eager to hear what are some of the your favorite projects that you've been on.
That's a great question. I mean, some of them, one of our clients is Terminix. They're based out of Columbia, South Carolina. So it's the largest franchise group within the overarching nationwide Terminix brand. So they service South Carolina, North Carolina, and coastal Georgia. We worked with them for a long time. They're a great client and a great partner, and we've built up a lot of trust. So they let us have a lot of fun with their brand. So you wouldn't think pest control would be a super creative outlet, but they've let us do limericks. They've let us do songs.
That's awesome.
We're currently running a campaign that's called Wild Wild Pest. That's all fully animated.
That's
I was going to ask if this was animated. The cowboy hats and everything.
Oh, exactly. And they're the marshals that are coming in to save the day at the end of each spot from these varmints that are attacking the town. So we have a lot of fun with it. So that's one that it's just a joy to work on, and it's great to have clients like that are willing to trust you. They're willing to try something, even if it seems a little scary, a little different.
I love when big brands take chances like that because they're setting the stage for great things to come.
Yeah.
Because you don't forget, kind of like the Teeter song you were singing earlier.
Right.
I'm going to remember that now.
Yeah.
I'll talk about
you're in love with food, not food and love.
Yeah.
Or something
I think
like
I got it. I think
You get it?
I think I'm with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it now.
Because they're putting love
They're
into
in
their
food. That's what they do.
Yeah.
With love, and they're doing it with love.
Thanks, Genna. I needed that part.
I think I'm here for it.
Listeners, you didn't see the motions that she was making. It was love. I mean, now I get it.
I just want to watch the
Thank you.
commercials now of like the love in the room with the shopping and then
Yeah, they need to figure that out.
the child walking out with the bag. I can see it now.
No Piggly Wiggly.
It's
I know, no
Piggly
Piggly Wiggly.
Wiggly.
So what years were you working on Piggly Wiggly campaigns? Because I'm going to go back and research some of the cool stuff because I know I've seen sneaky cool things. I want to go back and be like, okay, I know the girl who came up with that.
I mean, came up with it is a strong word because I was actually probably more on the account service side of things back then.
Okay.
And it is probably a time that kind of drew me to copywriting because I loved I thought that the team that was working on that and the things they were coming up with were so brilliant. And I was like, account service, that's just not my thing.
Right.
I was telling you this earlier, but copywriting is like one of my least favorite things to do. And I work in digital marketing just because it's so hard to constantly recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the same thing over and over again. Do you have any tips for people like me who kind of like, honestly, what I do is I have to like move location and sometimes even change clothes. And my husband's like, now you're in pajamas. I'm like, yep. I had to like get out of the zone, like change it. Do you have any like tips for people who are like having writer's block or anything like that when they're working on some creative project?
Yeah, no, changing your surroundings is shocking how much it can change your fresh thinking. I used to always flip through ComArts magazine if I felt stuck, just getting really inspired by seeing other people's brilliant work.
Okay.
Steal like an artist, look at stuff that inspires you and figure out what you love about it and how you can pull that through in what you're working on.
I love that idea.
Do you go to Ads of the World?
Yeah. That's a great one too.
Pretty cool. Adsoftheworld.com.
Yeah.
It's got all the different ads of the world in there. It's really
well named.
Well named, like the Charleston American Marketing Association. Well named podcast.
No confusion there. Zero confusion
there. So Genna, you mentioned something about the 5-second story.
Yeah.
Can you
Is this like an elevator
jump
pitch?
on that?
It's even shorter than that.
Okay.
So it's something that we've sort of developed over time at Buffalo Groupe, and I think it's kind of unique to our brand messaging strategy process there. We do a lot of the same foundational elements of brands that folks are used to, like a brand position, which is, your strongest competitive claim, or a brand promise, which is your emotional payoff to a consumer. And we pull all of those pieces of a brand messaging together, so including tone and personality and all of those, basics that make up a brand. And we try to take all of that one step higher, and we call that a core idea or a 5-second story, because you should be able to get it out of your mouth in 5 seconds or less. And
which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Hard to do.
Anything. Yeah.
So it's going to be high level.
Okay.
But when you pair it with all of the other information, it should also be unique and ownable and something you can latch everything around. So it should also extend, once it's created, beyond creative. So it's not just the creative team that's latching onto it. You want the internal teams at the client latching onto it. You want it to be kind of the one thing that's echoing in their head, because they're not going to memorize their tone and personality and brand position and elevator pitch
Mission
even.
statement, all that stuff, yeah.
It's just one thing. So for an example, Terminix is we protect what you love.
Love
and then
it.
we can explain why Terminix gets to say that in a unique way that no one else can, why their employees can believe in it and rally around it and feel strongly about it. So we want it to come to life in every element of the experience. And so once we identify it, we can also, media teams can be like, oh, that, if that's the core idea, then this is a great place that we should be buying an ad, because it really pays that off. So it starts to pull all of the pieces together under one central guiding light.
That sounds really, really super interesting and really helpful for your clients. Do you think that's going to be a thing that you're going to continue with the culture of Buffalo Groupe?
Yeah, it's something we found a lot of success with, not just for the creatives, but being able to pull all of the teams together and make sure we're all tracking against the same plan from the same central place of truth for the brand. And that's helped make all of our plans and communications efforts stronger.
Starts with data, moves into kind of research, and what comes after that? What kind of like siphon everything down into?
Yeah, that's where we figure out what that core idea is. And once we make sure that we're aligned with the client and we've got buy-in on that, then it's time to create the shit.
Hey,
Yeah, I love it.
I like
I love
it.
it.
All right, she cussed too. That was
Now, I'm
cool.
sure relationships are really important in your business, right?
Sure.
Because you've probably had a lot of the same clients for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Do you have some tips on keeping like those relationships strong, especially if you're kind of working on the same material just year after year?
Put your account services hat on real quick.
Yeah, I know. No, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's finding the right people to partner with,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard because you can even have a client that you have a great relationship with, and your day-to-day contact could leave there. That has nothing to
Happens
do with
all the
Yeah,
time.
CMO changes out.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
So it's really tough. But I think one of the ways that we help with that is trying to create a bench of relationships, not just putting it all in one person. So
Right.
if that one person does step away, there's a lot of people who are advocating to continue working with you. But finding people you love to work with. One of our local clients that we've been ramping up with more is Saltgrass Technologies,
Okay.
based out of Mount Pleasant. And they are just so wonderful to work with.
What do they do?
That's amazing.
They make sublimation printers. And a whole platform for making sublimated
What's
items.
that?
Oh gosh, it's a heat press, a heat transfer press system.
okay.
So it can go on anything that has an element of polyester. Sawgrass. I'm
Interesting.
so sorry if I'm saying any
I'm
of this
envisioning
incorrectly.
lots of video content.
But there's a lot of
showing
like
the process.
Etsy creators who use it. But they have
Love
a whole
it.
platform where you can make and sell those things all within the Sawgrass exchange system.
Cool.
So anyway, so finding people you enjoy working with and
It's
can really
huge.
build a relationship with for a long time. Yeah.
That's very cool.
That's awesome.
Stephanie, talk about women in agency.
Yeah, it's difficult. So I've worked with a lot of female owner businesses, and I absolutely love like the dynamic. But I know after having strong relationships with these women that it's sometimes challenging to be taken as seriously, or just like I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What are some of the things you run into as
in your journey?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, I had a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I know that that's something that women struggle with at a greater rate than men. So I think that can be a huge mental hang up to get over, that you are qualified to be the expert here.
Absolutely.
What your opinion is a valid and good opinion and worth vocalizing. And I really appreciate Buffalo Groupe supporting my career, but I've been in positions younger than I would have expected to, and sometimes younger than a lot of the colleagues that are now reporting to me. So that further kind of brings back that imposter syndrome. Like, am I worthy of this? Do I deserve this? Am I the right person here?
Sure.
So it's just a lot of trusting yourself and reminding yourself that you are the right person to answer this question. You are the right person to lead this team. You can do this. No one is more qualified to do this than you.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, seriously. I was going to have a follow-up question because I told you earlier that I'm a mom to a young daughter. She's 7 and she's like my entire world. And I often think about, how the world is changing, and one day she'll be in college or she won't, or she'll go off and be a solo entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, do her thing. And I often like to say, what advice would I give her about coursing her life, because who I am when I graduated college and who I am now are like completely different people.
Yeah.
And so do you have any like advice that you would give to people who wanted to like become more into women leadership? Like, would you work with other peers or mentors, or kind of paths that they would take? Just from your own personal experience.
No, absolutely. I would say the one that I'm still working on so much every day. And that's like, you have to get over this idea that you have to be liked by everyone.
I love that.
Because especially women are taught that much more in a way than men are.
Yes,
and so that means we won't push back as much as men do. We don't advocate for ourselves as much as men do.
Right.
So it's dropping that narrative and going, I'm going to say what I think and what I feel and advocate for myself, or push back or do what's right. And I may not be liked for it, and that's okay.
Right. What I like about women leaders too is because we have the lens of a woman, and a lot of times we are the target audience. Like, we're the ones setting up the appointments. We're the one buying the goods.
That's a mental load issue that we should also talk about.
I know, because we are like we are the doers of the household, and that
I'm going to teeter like twice a day, honestly. I'm cooking every meal. All right. Okay. Well, I don't want to. I'm just saying.
Mike and my husband are the exception.
Well, there's other men out there like us.
But it's crazy that how many women is making these decisions. So
right.
And they're putting like a softer lens on the marketing, which I like.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I think it's fantastic coming from the male side of things, having female leadership. I love strong women. I've always have. And I know there's a lot of our membership base is female.
Yes.
Everything I go to, I'm the minority. At every event, every board meeting, there's like one dude, maybe two guys.
There's a lot of women in marketing.
A lot of women
welcome the more men,
here in
though.
Charleston specifically.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
Shout out to some dudes out there. I need some men on my team. Even though I like strong women, I would like to also
causes in marketing.
Harden up our Instagram page a little bit. It's so soft, for crying out loud. But
Jake is in marketing.
I'm
on your team.
Proud and wanted to share that story because I know you felt strongly about that side. So thank you for sharing.
Of course,
it's really nice. And I was serious when you spoke about. I'm like getting goosebumps. Like somebody out there is listening to your story right now and is like, I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be an executive creative director and managing director of a big agency, 120 people.
Yeah.
That's a beast.
Yeah. She said but she's out there keeping the culture of a smaller agency. They have like their finger on the pulse of the people, the team that they work with. So it's not like lost in translation that this is, a big corporation, but I like the culture that you've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like I said, I've had friends who've moved over to your agency and they were very, very happy there.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you say that because I do some work with a group of women that have formed an agency of freelancers, and they're all women, and they've all worked in agency lifestyle, and didn't like it, and felt forced out, felt unsupported once they had children, felt all of those things. So they formed their own agency, but they all operate independently. And they ask me, they're like, when are you going to quit and come join us and just do this?
Can I have their number? Because that sounds like people I would become friends with.
Yeah,
they're excellent. Yeah, absolutely. They're really cool women.
Like a think tank, like a
yeah. I mean, they operate just like an agency, except everyone's an individual contractor.
a mastermind.
So they're setting their own rates, but working together, and they're brilliant. But when they asked me that, I was like, no, I still like it, but I also like the opportunity to change it. Like, I want to make it different, and I want to make it better, and I want to make it so women have babies and they want to come back and they feel supported.
That's
and figure out how we can do that.
You're forward thinking like that, because a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't.
Well, especially in the big agency side. I have to bring that up again, but
yeah.
There's a lot of old school mentality,
right?
And so it's refreshing to get some of that new school feel.
Yeah,
especially in such a giant company that you guys have there. Really cool, and I bet it's like hard. I bet it's a difficult thing to do, to keep a culture of acceptance and empathy, and it's a thing that you have to listen to all of your employees. You have to listen to all these different minds and these thoughts, and bringing them all together. It's got to be some kind of like, I don't know. I haven't managed 20 people, on a day to day.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's got to be mentally challenging, I would think.
I've got a really good support team. Back before last year, I had 12 direct reports, and that was really challenging because it just felt like at least one person is always going to be really upset or about to jump or like whatever. So you could not have. But I looked at the team and I was like, we've got to create some better levels here. And so
what does that mean?
Promoting some people to ACD and CD and giving them opportunities to manage people underneath them.
I love
assistant creative director.
Promoting within, because I think a lot of companies are constantly hiring outside to come in and change the game, but I love when people promote.
Yes, always, 100%. As soon as you hire someone above someone, you're just saying, we're not supporting your career growth. It's always like filling people in from the bottom positions and giving opportunities to just rise up through the organization.
Perfect.
And I think for our agency, we have some really long tenured people, which I think is really impressive, especially with all the change that's happened in the last 5 years. Right. But creating those levels within the team really took a lot of that off of my plate, and also gave people opportunities to grow and challenge them as well. So that was hugely helpful.
Very cool.
Now, creatively, I'm sure you have some cool things coming down the pipeline for this year. Anything coming up?
I've got a shoot next week at Fripp Island.
A golf shoot.
That sounds fun.
Still haven't gotten my casting call for that.
I think we're going to need you.
You're going to need it. Old, stodgy.
It's for Sun Mountain Sports. They make golf bags, golf push carts, and outerwear.
That sounds
great
awesome.
stuff. Yeah. So that's a fun one. It's fun to have sort of that direct-to-consumer e-commerce side of things. That's not always what a lot of our clients are. So that'll
be really fun. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit better than it is today.
It does not look great right now, but I refuse to look and panic until I'm like within 3 days, because things can just change so much. So I'm just like, we'll just figure it out. It's a rain or shine shoot. So unless it's like a tornado where they're like, you can't go out there, we're gonna see what we get.
Got it.
Do you have any big names that you can talk about? Is there a golfer as part of do you have any influencers on this?
On the shoot?
Yeah.
No, we just have just paid talent. Yeah.
$1,200 a day is my.
They are so expensive. It's like $1,500 now.
Yeah. Talent's expensive.
Yeah. This economy.
So, what's your buy? They're asking about your buy. Like, you have to regional, national, like, and then I'm spending thousands of dollars on scores now.
Wow.
Oof.
Right. Even though I'm spending $100 a month to get, access to these scores, but
sure.
I mean, it's all getting expensive. But I wouldn't change it though. I mean, I wouldn't change what I'm doing or where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The love of Charleston and advertising, and here we are.
Now,
I'm trying to wrap this show up a little bit. It's 1:50. You've got the presentation that you have to open up. So let's do it. Bring it on.
Because I'm so interested in copywriting.
Ask the question.
I spent a lot of time doing it.
Go ahead. Ask the question.
AI. Are we all going to be unemployed soon? Is it going to take over? Like, what's your take on copywriting and AI?
I would say I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth right now, because on one side,
Very
I feel like
to do that. I don't know how you're going to do that.
She's already
Is that a pun? That's not a pun.
Yeah.
On one side, I feel like we're the writer, myself included, and the writers on our team are delivering a lot more than just words. That is not going to be replicated by any artificial intelligence in the foreseeable future.
Agreed.
We're adding a lot more value and strategy and depth of expertise than that. However, I do think there are a lot of ways of working that we're going to need to be using it to maximize efficiency so that we can either turn product quicker for our clients or do it more cost effectively for them.
Sure.
Or we're going to lose business. So we have to be figuring out how to work with it and seeing where we add value to it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to spit it back out to you, but you have to customize it, right? I mean, you can get
I feel
a lot
like
of great information, but you have to
different digital pieces of it, like for Messenger and that kind of thing. It'd probably be really handy, especially if it's constantly changing, like a healthcare, that kind of thing.
It's going to be another tool until it's not, and
Until
then until it takes us all down. But
Right.
I
that's
definitely feel like there's room
doomsayers.
for
I'm
errors.
not
I
that.
think that we're safe, but I like your approach of work, like embracing it in some certain sense and then just customizing it. And we have to have that personalization still.
Exactly.
Going back to your question about how to
Authenticity.
get ideas, I mean, that's a great tool to use already. So if we're
Okay.
trying to brainstorm like new names for a company, we're going to come up with names on our own, but getting us a list to start from that's AI generated is a great starting place. It's walking into a brainstorm with ideas that took no mental effort.
As a solopreneur, I need to utilize AI more because sometimes I just get stuck because it's just me.
Yeah.
And then I pick up the phone and I call some of my other friends who are solo entrepreneurs and we hash things out. But that's a good starting point. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
definitely
get-
going to take that
get
tidbit
things
with me.
flowing.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, we do have a great organization called the Charleston Marketing.
We do.
Marketing
And those are the people
Association,
that I
where you
call.
can-
The people that I'm referring to are
Yes.
the people on the
Yeah.
board of the Charleston American
Yeah.
Marketing Association.
Yeah.
I call them for my tips and tricks. when I get
Exactly.
stuck, which
Exactly.
happens sometimes.
Exactly. Jenna, thank you.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
It's Jenna
It
with a
went
G.
quick because it was so much fun. And we've learned a lot. Now, you told me that you've been to some of the Spark Awards and that kind of thing. So we look forward to seeing you again in the
Yes,
fall.
I'll come
All of the
collect all
awards.
those dusty awards that you have, I guess.
With the new ones.
have a
we want
lot of
shiny new
awards.
awards.
Yes, we'll love to have you there.
Shiny new awards
Shiny
coming
new
soon.
awards. Yes.
So thank you for being on the show.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing your story. I'm sure you've inspired some people. I'm not going to just say female.
No,
I'm gonna
I
say
thought
people,
it was a
humans.
great conversation. And I mean, honestly, I'm
Fucking
leaving with
humans out
tidbits
here.
that I'm going to take back to my desk immediately after this. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Do you have any last minute sayings here? Oh, I saw the little.
We're not
twist
going to
there.
leave. We're not leaving you with a pun today, friends.
I can
but-
give you one of my favorite ones.
There we
I
go.
learned it on the Rosie O'Donnell show when I was like in middle school, so I will
Okay.
not take credit, but it is one of my. It's a joke, but
Okay.
what do you get when you cross a rhinoceros and an elephant?
I have no idea.
A rhine elephant.
Elefino.
Oh,
Isn't
man.
it so good?
That was a
Perfect.
good one.
So good. Jenna with the G,
That was
ladies and
awesome.
gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time, Charleston. Thanks.
Bye.